Hey Ian, good evening. Welcome aboard. Can you hear me? Hey there, Jesse. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Awesome.
How's everything?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Doing great as well. Thanks a lot for asking.
Fantastic.
Um, you got it. I kind of hosting today. Well, allowing people to come in and all that. Esteban got busy with something else. So here we are. So let's give him a few
Can you
minutes
guys hear me?
Yeah.
people to join. Hey, there you are.
Yeah, Esteban's on
Can
here.
you guys hear me though?
Yeah, you're super quiet, but we can hear you.
Okay, I'm still in the plane, so I didn't want to interrupt anything.
No problem, man. You're not.
Yeah, because yesterday I basically missed my plane, and then uh, had to reschedule it for
Reschedule.
today, man.
Oh, wow. Are you still here in
Yeah,
Colombia?
no, I mean I'm going to Phoenix right now. I was in Miami.
Oh, I got it. Oh, coast to coast. How
I
long?
I
How long is that flight?
I I learned to teleport, man, and I have a new skill. I teleport.
Cool.
I was gonna say, feel free to
All
pass
right.
along that knowledge, man.
Okay, hold on. Let me announce this to everyone. One sec.
Is Ian's assistant an actual assistant, or is that like an AI thing?
I think it's an AI thing because I was kind of reading him, but he didn't respond. It's an AI, not that smart.
Is Ian getting one here today, Esteban?
Esteban just told
He
me
said
he
yes. He said yes. Ian said yes. Let me know whenever we start getting participants.
sure.
Can you hear me though properly?
Barely. I mean, your voice sounds choppy, but yeah, I we can hear you.
Okay. Have you ever done objections role play, Daniel?
Not really, Esteban, honestly.
Okay. Jesse, have you ever? I'm thinking something. I've never been the guy. I've never been the bad guy. Or actually, have I? I want to be the bad guy with you for a second. If you can hear me, I want to be the bad guy. which means I want to be the seller, the hard seller, and tell me how you're gonna handle it, Jesse. And sorry, and show me how you're gonna handle it. And that'll be great.
Your audio is breaking up really bad on my end.
Oh shit.
But I mean, if there's other people that are ready to join, get them in here. We can start talking about something.
Sure.
Daniel,
Yeah, no,
can
I'm
you
joining yet.
can you check?
There is no one
We're
joining
gonna
yet.
give him maybe we're gonna give him a few minutes.
What city do you live in, Daniel?
Bogota, Colombia, Jesse.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, have you ever been to?
No, I have not.
Planning?
No. I'd love to go to Colombia. I mean, just never been there yet.
I
So
know Jesse. I know Jesse loves Colombians, especially the mamacitas.
Sure, that's for sure. Hey, Ian, welcome. Glad to have you here.
How you doing?
Doing great, thanks a lot. By yourself.
Doing okay.
Cool, cool. This is your game partner, Jesse Bush. We are just giving some time to, for more people to join.
Sure.
Great.
Hey, are you feeling better, Ian? Over the cold completely at this point?
Yes. Luckily, I'm over the cold completely. Thank God. Yeah, it's the most frustrating thing when you've got a shot voice when your whole career is around you talking.
Yeah, exactly. I literally can't think of any one of my friends that has not gotten it at this point, especially locally where I live. Everybody, and like I feel like I'm walking around in some type of hermetic bubble. I've been able to dodge it so far because all of my friends have had it, and I'm just like, I'll keep my distance for a few more days. But
Yeah, I used to have the same approach. The kid in daycare has completely destroyed any aspect for me of doing that. It's just a walking into a disease zone where he hangs out with other little disease gremlins. So
Yeah.
I'm doing my
and
doing my best to survive it.
every week it feels like it's a new type of disease too. Like one week it's
Or
the snotty
the
runny
same
nose,
one
the next-
over and over again. Didn't I already
Yeah.
have this one? What's going on? Why isn't my antibody supposed to not get me sick? I've had 3 colds in the last 3 months. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. So Ian, I had a question for you, or I was
Sure.
hoping Esteban is traveling this week.
Yeah, he told me.
And so I was hoping that you and I could talk, and even as other people are getting on here, where I think, so just saying what I was thinking about everything from the last 2 weeks, and I feel like the group overall could get a ton of value from not necessarily hearing the objections at the end, but kind of how you start the conversation, because I think that you probably would agree with me that a lot of acquisitions people, once they get seasoned, they don't run into as many objections because everything is covered throughout the conversation. And I was
Absolutely.
I was wondering if you would be willing to kind of share with the group either what you teach or what you say, kind of going into it from the beginning, not really role playing as much with the seller, but actually what you're saying and why you're saying it.
Okay. So the biggest thing that we do that might be a little different than how most, and certainly in my experience, most acquisitions people do it, is that we do a thing where we call it establishing the rules. It's just a version of setting the expectations of how this appointment is going to go at the start. The focus of that is to principally make it clear that, because a lot of these people that we're talking to, especially if we're talking to highly targeted lists, if they've been getting a lot of calls or a lot of mailers or a lot of attention for whatever reason, they might have be under the let's just call it the illusion that their home is the belle of the ball and they've got 1,000 options and there's no rush and people pay a lot for their home. And that's not the case for everyone, but a lot of we love expensive lists for people who really need to sell that they're like. And so one of the things we're aware of is trying to make sure like, hey, like we're not even sure we're going to buy this home. Because a lot of people think like, you're just going to come in and make an offer and then I'm collecting other offers. And we take a moment and go like, can I take a moment and tell you how these calls usually go? And they usually go, sure. This call usually takes about, it depends the personality for how long we say it's going to be. If someone's a real driver personality, we'll say it is less time. If it's done virtually, we'll say it's less time than if we're in person, but usually like half hour, 45 minutes or 45 minutes to an hour and a half. It's sort of like depending on what we need to do, just making sure they're not thinking that I have to go pick my kid up from school in 15 minutes and this will take 10 and then I'm out of here in 5. We make sure we have expectations around how long the appointment will take. And then we talk about like, obviously, we're doing our best, but we can't buy every home. I wish we could. So if this is a home that for any reason that I get the feeling after we're talking that it's not going to make sense for us as a company, is it okay if I tell you that? And no one has any objection to that, of course, right? Like, these things are often designed to make sure, of course, like, yeah, naturally, this is the natural flow at the start. And likewise, if you get the feeling that whatever I have to offer or something about the process, if any of it doesn't work for you, are you comfortable telling me no? Never heard anyone admit that they're not comfortable telling no. Of course, we know many people are uncomfortable saying no. And then we also say, and at the end of this, if for how we run our process, if I hear anything like other than a yes, no, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to take that as a no. Is that fair enough? You just sort of like get a buy-in that I'm not going to think about it. We kind of close on that idea up front before emotions are high, which is what they are when you're going for the close and talking about numbers. That's when people are expecting that type of resistance. We get that out of the way up front. And then we say, and at the end of this, if we agree on everything, if we're on good terms and the price makes sense, the timeline makes sense, we would go ahead and put everything we talked about, and we just put it in writing. Would that be okay? Most people are like, yeah, it makes sense to put it in writing for what we talked about. So that's sort of like the aspect of how we start the conversation. And then the questions usually start with some version of like the why am I out here? Sell me on your motivation. Why are we having this conversation? What is it about the ad that you clicked on that stood out to you? Why would you want to be interested in hearing an offer from me rather than just going with the traditional real estate agent? It's always about sort of like, it's almost once we've done this sort of moment of establishing the rules and making sure the guidelines on how the appointment should go, will go as close to the way we want as possible, we then almost pull back and be like, why are you having this conversation? So that's sort of how I start the conversation regarding running the appointment. Does that answer your question? I mean, obviously, our appointments are longer than some too, because we spend a lot of time. Our focus then, when we're asking what's going on, is we're looking for motivation. And in particular, when we're looking for motivation, we're looking for pain, meaning sort of negative emotion tied behind that motivation. So we're doing so for instance, someone gets, a foreclosure notice or is in pre-foreclosure in the mail. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that alone is enough pain and motivation for someone to want to sell their house at a discount. We have not found that to be the case. We have found that time and again, those people often find a way to like rationalize and compartmentalize. And so often we would ask, and the reason people go into foreclosure is usually because something happened. Maybe and we ask about that. Maybe they got some hours cut back at work. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they had a medical event. Like something happened where they weren't able to make their mortgage payments. And then from there, the natural question is starting around and asking, how has that affected things at home? How has that affected you? What has that been like? Because our whole approach and idea is we're not going in to make offers on the home, and we're always saying like, yeah, I'm not sure yet. I have to learn a little bit more about your circumstances because we don't buy every home. We'd love to be able to. Just excuse me, don't usually cough. Apparently, I still got some of it. I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to buy yours. I'd love to if I could. We're always sort of doing that, and then our goal is to the way I described it, just like the disruptor sales process is rather than making offers or talking about how great we are or what we do or how quickly we can close or no closing costs and all that certainty stuff, my approach is to coach you as the homeowner on how to sell me on your pain. And then the prescription to your pain is you trying to buy our cash with your house. And that's like the sort of mentality that we have going into it. So I don't have a perfect talk track to eliminate all objections naturally at that start that way, because oftentimes I feel like they don't reveal enough at the start for me to hammer that home. But as I'm asking questions, I'm always pulling back. And always, I think I described it, the idea of like getting a toddler to walk across the room. That's my thing. I'm staying close. And then as I step, if I feel like I'm not making any progress, I might stay there. I may step back a little bit and see if you come towards me. And then if you start coming towards me, I stay right there and keep moving back. So that's kind of our general approach.
Yeah. And so with what you just said, I just want to summarize it for the group in case anybody didn't hear or anything like that. But the one thing I took notice to was right from the beginning of the conversation, what did Ian have to get me comfortable with doing? Being asked questions. As soon as the conversation started, it was, is that okay with you? Would that be a problem? And it's forcing the seller, me in this case, to have to get used to being programmed to respond. So I'm having to listen to what he's saying so that I can think about it and process it and then come out with a response. So it's automatically going to keep the seller more engaged in the conversation, because whoever's asking the most questions is controlling the conversation. So he's making sure that me as the seller is getting mentally programmed. Hey, this is going to be a conversation. It's going to last us 45 to 60 minutes. So he's getting that out up front, and he's letting him know, that there's going to be some questions he's going to have to find out about, because it's not a guarantee that he's going to be interested in buying their house. So as he's establishing and building rapport while he's getting on the phone with them, he doesn't have a ton of information yet. He doesn't have a lot of knowledge, but he's already making them and Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's making the seller have to sell him on why he should be willing to entertain doing a deal on this house. And that's a real big difference, because I'm sure Ian would agree with this. A lot of times when we're brand new to wholesaling, we get so eager to just get a deal that it's like, you want to sell your house? How much do you want? Okay. It's under market value, so I'll just put it under contract. Whereas he's pulling back from that and making he's differentiating himself from any of the other people that are probably calling them, texting them, sending them emails, because he's not out here saying, hey, I'm the house whore. Just, show me a property and I'm all yours. Instead, he's making them feel like they have to actually fight to be able to do business. So he's elevating himself in their mind, and he's gaining a lot of trust probably with the consumer or the seller, because they're looking at it like, wow, this guy is legit. He's telling me everything that's going to happen up front. The other thing that I hope you guys took from it was he committed me right in the beginning. And he committed me by saying, hey, listen, at the end, I'm going to hope for either a yes, no, a thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't remember exactly how he said it. And he said anything aside from a yes, I would automatically be taking as a no. He's basically crossing off that think about it objection that sometimes sellers could try and give us at the end. And I'm not saying he would, but worst case scenario, he could always refer back to that at the end of the conversation and say, hey, Mr. Seller, you remember in the beginning when we talked about at the end, you could give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, but anything beside from a yes, I'm going to have to take as a no. There's a reason that he's saying that, guys. I hope you guys are picking that up. Is that okay with you, Ian?
Yeah, that's great. I got a few things about that. I love that, that elaboration. Yes, and here's the truth. After a 45-minute, hour and a half appointment, you still sometimes I need to think about it. So you bet I'm bringing that up. I'm bringing up, the way I bring it up is I blame myself. So it's like basically we do sort of people are familiar with like eliminating with the objection. Gotcha. So in terms of what you think about, I'm guessing it's the price you want to process and think about, and maybe like, well, no, I'm okay on the price. Gotcha. So it's something with the process or the timeline. We're making you move too quickly. No, it's not that. Oh, I see. It's me. I said something or did something because at the start you said I heard anything other than a yes or no. I take it as no. You said okay, and now you're saying you need to think about it. I must have done something wrong. And they're like, no, it's not you. And then they tell me what's really going on because I sort of fall on my sword in recapping that idea. So that's absolutely the case. Yes, and also your point about I hadn't phrased it quite that way, but my goal is to elevate myself. And so we think we have the thought process and we train on this thought process that we're in the Phoenix market right now, even just locally, there's like 1,500 homes in pre-foreclosure in this market. Why should I buy yours? Now, I would never verbalize that to a homeowner, but that is my mindset going in terms of like the fuel of trying to make sure I'm operating from a place of more or less status, that I don't need this deal. I would love this deal, but I certainly don't need it. And so if you don't go with me, I wish you the best of luck. When you operate that way, you feel to the person you're talking to, like, just like, man, this person's legit. This person knows exactly what he's talking about. Like, there's no pressure. He's not forcing me. And it also allows me to be curious and be like, help me understand what it is with you. Because I'd love to buy some, but if no, we're not sure we're going to buy it or not. Because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Having that type of like, it's a tonality I train on called like the maybe merchant. Like, yeah, maybe we can do this. Maybe we can. I don't know. We're talking about numbers. Is a repeated idea and like lightning rod for me to always be pointing to be like, I'd love to be able to buy it, but I don't know if I can. And like you also said, there's also an aspect of building trust because by being clear how the process goes, or at least how our process works, and if it doesn't work for you, we wish you the best of luck. It also establishes yourself as someone who has an expertise that can be consultative through the process rather than confrontational, which is how a lot of people think about a direct to homeowner sale. You know, this whole idea like, no, it's you versus the prospect type of thing, which I absolutely loathe and hate, versus like, I'd love to be your consultant. And if I can't buy your home, maybe someone else can, I'll make a recommendation, but I've got a certain criteria and I'd love to be able to if I could, but I don't know if I can yet. I need to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, that's spot on. And for those of you guys that aren't part of the sales disruptors course, I've had a long day of talking.
I get it.
Since like 6 a.m. So, but for those of you guys that aren't part of the sales disruptors course, you should be. You should sign up, and we'll have Ian put the link in the chat before the end. It's $97 a month, by far the best value you're going to find when it comes to sales training that could make an impact in your daily life and could be huge for your career. I'm not part of his course. I'm not paid by his course. I've just been able to see the material, everything that's involved with it. And if you guys are really looking for some amazing value, that's where you would find it. But since I know all of you guys are Hessel clients, even with what he was just saying, in the script that we have in the Hessel Vault, even in there, it's almost a very similar statement. The statement that we have on the Hessel Vault is we hope that we can either, earn your business or do business, whatever. And then at the end it says, or if we can't buy the house, we hope that from this conversation, we can give you a lot of value and information for you to move forward. And really what he's doing by saying that, guys, the way Ian said it, which I feel is a little bit better, a lot better and more refined, to be honest with you, is he's letting the person know that, hey, I might not be able to buy this. So there's no expectation up front that it's going to work out, but he's creating a value. People love to have conversations, be involved at events, go to places where they feel they're getting something from it, right? So he's, again, building that trust, that respect, the rapport that we talk about in the call, because he's now elevated himself. He's made himself into a professional. He's not out here to just buy every house. Oh, and by the way, from you talking to me, Mr. Seller, I'm going to end up giving you value. I'm going to let you walk away from this more informed, with better information, so that you can move forward whatever decision is best for you. So I hope you guys are seeing what he's doing right from the beginning. He's building tons of value in himself, the relationship, why it would be of value, and why they could be a lot different than the competition. If he doesn't mind, what I'd love to do is have him kind of share once he gets past that and they start kind of delving into the home. If he could just run us through maybe a quick 3 to 5 minutes of what they start talking about, because I want you guys to hear the questions that he asks me, how he phrases them, and more than anything, the tonality of his voice and his inflection. I'll play along like just a regular old person that wants to sell my house. I'm not going to be overly difficult or an asshole to him, but listen as he asks questions. Some things will be like he piques his interest. Oh, why do you say that? He's real curious. Other things he'll maybe come across more as a statement, like a firm, to guide the conversation. That's what he's doing by doing that. So if you don't mind, Ian, could you just give us a few minutes of how that part of it goes?
Sure. So I'll just basically, should we assume we're on the phone or, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Someone's on. Daniel, you got a finger raised.
Yeah, something just a little bit to add here. And by the way, welcome to all the attendees. We really appreciate your attendance and being so attentive to what these rock stars are doing here. There's a lot of knowledge that we can absorb from them. But I would like to highlight the school REI channel that we have. So we recommend you all to invite your friends, your colleagues to be part of the channel. Let me show you just a little glimpse of what it looks like, so that you're familiar with it and you have the chance. I'm sorry guys for interrupting that way. Just a little recommendation for all of our attendees today. So here's the channel. Here we will be posting everything going on. We have had a lot of growth in just a couple of weeks. We are already around more than 500 members. So the idea is that you guys invite your friends, your colleagues, your partners and all that, so that we can make a literally great community where we can share a lot of good practices as these two guys are doing today. All right, so just for you all to know that. Now, Jesse, Ian, the space and the mic is yours. Thank you very much.
Just to clarify something, I just read the comments. You're still screen sharing, by the way. But whoever commented that, no, that was not a giant rat. Unfortunately, I had a friend of mine that had to go out of town for business. I'm taking care of her hairless cat for a month, and he goes home next week. The thing's the creepiest thing I've ever had to be around or encounter. He's a really nice guy, but my desk is standing like almost 6 feet tall practically right now. And he just jumps up onto it. So I keep having to throw him off. So whoever thought there was a giant rat in front of my computer, there wasn't. It was just a hairless cat. So yeah, I just saw that and it was like, was that a rat? I was like, oh my God. But all right, guys. So again, just to recap where we're at. So Ian already kind of talked to me up front. He established kind of the tone and the tempo of the conversation. He let me know that he was an authority figure in this space just through the conversation. He let me know up front that, hey, look, if you want to do business with me, you got to kind of wine me and dine me. I'm not just here to buy every house. You got to give me the razzle dazzle. And he made me have to kind of sell him on why my property is a good one for him to buy. So now that I've kind of realized as the seller, like, oh, shoot, I got to, if I want to do business with this guy, if I want to get a cash offer for my house, I have to make myself available in part of this conversation. So now that I'm at that point as the seller, he's going to kind of go through how he starts to talk about the house. So now if we were to break the sales process down into like, and I know it's more than this, but like 3 major parts, like the front talk, the body, and then the recap close. He's done the front talk. Now I want you guys to see how he trains folks to get into the body of the conversation, to get me used to kind of giving up information about the house, spilling the secret, so to speak.
Okay. So let's just say we did that. My question would be, so are we on the phone or are we in person? What should we do if we're role playing this?
What are most of your folks that you guys coach? What are most of them?
Pro-
Virtual?
probably most are virtual. We have plenty of people doing in person and kind of a hybrid thing. But I'd say the majority are virtual.
Let's go virtual then.
Okay. Um, so, Jesse, my next question is pretty simple. What is it that made you want to take this call?
Well, to be honest with you, I just wanted to sell this place and get on down the road quick. I have another job waiting for me. And you know, it's just I could go through doing everything and trying to sell it, but just to be honest with you, if I could, I saw your guys' ad and I figured if I could sell it quick and you know, not have to come back because I have to take the job. And I'm just
Got it.
timing it. I'm just timing out for 1 second. Guys, this is really how conversations go. Because I know sometimes people want to tune in to hear like, oh, give them a hard time, be an asshole to them. That's not a motivated seller. And Ian's probably not going to be on the phone with the guy that's like, what do you mean, tough guy? You want to buy my house? Give me $1 million. Like he's a professional. He's got other things to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So by the time I'm trying to give you guys a real life representation of what a call probably is going to sound like with a guy that wants to sell his house. And I'm literally giving you guys the conversation that I had last week with a lead that I got in. So all I'm doing is repeating exactly how that guy was. And I'm going to give him the exact same information. So pick him back up. To be honest with you, I got a job waiting for me down in South Carolina. The plant that I was working for up here is closing down. So I start down there and I just figured if I tried to sell it with a realtor, I'm going to have to drive to South Carolina. Then I'm going to have to come back up here and meet with people and everything like that. And I figured, you know, if I could just sell it quick, that way I don't have to come back and forth and deal with everything.
Got it. So first off, congrats on the job. When you say quick, what is your sort of expectations there around what quick would be if we were to buy your home?
Oh, I start the job down there April 5th.
Okay. Okay. So you would definitely want to have it closed before then. Is that the idea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to, you know, if I'm trying to do it to avoid having to come back and forth.
Sure. And do you already have a place picked out down there, or are you planning on buying, renting? What's your sort of plan for housing once you move down to South Carolina?
The plant that we're going to, they're giving all the people from this area that they're shipping down there, they're giving us 12 months worth of housing allowance. So I'm going to rent something because I don't know anywhere down there. I don't know where I'd want to live, and they're going to pay for it. So
Gotcha. So it's really it's not to get cash to move into a place because they're already going to give you at least a year's worth of rent where you're going. But you definitely want to make sure that you don't have to come back up, that you could just be sort of hands off, collect a check for this property and move on.
well, yeah, I mean, you know, York, Pennsylvania to South Carolina, it's like, you know, 12-hour drive or something. It's a
Yeah.
lot, you know, like, and especially I get off work Friday at, you know, 4 o'clock. So I'd either have to use up vacation days to come up here, or I'd have to be trying to get off work at 4, haul ass up here to do business on a Saturday, and then trying to get back home, you know, and be at work at Monday. So it wouldn't make sense.
Gotcha. So in terms of that convenience of a cash offer, of actually selling your home for cash, so that you don't have to take vacation time from a new job right away, or take off at 4 and drive through the night, basically to you know, spend your weekend back up here when you're just moving into your new place.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the idea that like getting that convenience has an adjustment in terms of cost based on market value?
What do you mean?
I mean, you wouldn't, when people pay for convenience, it's
Mhm.
not the same amount they would get if they went through that process of getting a realtor and getting that. Are you aware of that?
Oh, no, I didn't know. I didn't know how it works.
Okay. So yeah, so obviously usually the people that work with us, they come to us because they just want that speed and convenience. They don't want to have to deal with a realtor. Maybe they're already moving out of state, the same situation like you're in, and don't want to have to come back and deal with all that. They'd rather just pick up a check. And they understand that like the convenience of getting that means it would be less than what they could get going through the process of having a realtor have a showing and list it for months and do all the negotiation and stuff. They understand that the convenience part has an adjustment in terms of price compared to having to drive back 14 hours and use up vacation time from a new job.
Okay.
So with that said, are you still interested in sort of pursuing that, or are you still so set on a number because this is new information and I don't want to aware you're dealing with new information?
No, I mean, I'd be interested to hear what you guys would offer,
Okay.
I know you told me you don't buy everything. I mean, do you want me to tell you about the house? Because it's a pretty nice place.
Yeah. You can definitely break it down for me. What do you want to tell me?
What do you want to know?
Well, I mean, my basic questions is normal stuff, right? Like things are like how old the roof is.
Okay, so hang on, let me grab my tablet. Exactly what the guy told me the other day. He said, I have all this shit written down. I'll find it
Okay.
here.
Perfect. That's convenient for me.
All right, here we go. So the roof was put on in 2017. The water heater and the furnace were both done by Klings here in York, PA. And that was in 2019. The kitchen counters we did in 2020, right at the start of COVID. And then now it's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. It's a 2-car garage, nice lot, a couple trees. The windows have been replaced before we bought it, but they're nice. They fold in and everything, like to clean them.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the kids' bathroom. I tiled the shower in that. That was like 5 years ago, probably. We had a leak and we had to repair the leak. The diverter valve on the tub, we had to replace that. So I ended up tiling everything. My kids had some of their bedrooms painted hideous colors. So, that could probably use some new paint. And my son's room has the carpet's got to go. But aside from that, it's a nice place.
Gotcha. So aside from some paint and some carpet stuff, it sounds like you've done quite a bit of work maintaining it, updating it, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried to.
That's good. So then I just want to ask directly to make sure, would you rather, if you already put work into it and doesn't need any attention or care, would you rather just try to like deal with that process of selling with a realtor to try and get top dollar? I know you have to drive back up, or are you still interested in hearing what it would look like, even if it was a little bit less, going for a cash offer?
Well, how much less is it usually?
I'm not sure yet. I mean, it really varies depending on the setup. Do you have a certain amount in mind that you were looking to walk away with? Because I'm assuming you still have a bit of a mortgage left on it.
Yeah, we still owe some money on it, not much.
Gotcha.
So
then,
we bought it a while ago when places were still pretty cheap.
Okay. How long is a while ago?
We bought this place back in 2006.
Gotcha. Okay. So almost 20 years coming up on. Do you recall by any chance? Maybe you have it on that tablet there. Do you recall how much you have left on the mortgage?
I don't have the exact figure. I mean, so
Sure.
I know when we so we took it out in 2006. We bought it so now I don't know. Is Zillow correct? Do you go by Zillow?
Rarely.
Oh.
Would that surprise you?
Yeah, that's where I looked to see what the house said it was worth. My neighbor told me that, like, would tell you what it was worth.
So a couple of things. I mean, Zillow, first off, is our experiences had quite a bit of issues when they tried to actually go into buying homes. They tried to do that a couple of years ago, and their algorithm was so far off that They almost went bankrupt going through that. So there's that to consider. The other thing, simply put, is that that price is assuming everything is brand spanking new, updated, HGTV, top of the line, ready to go through the process of going through an agent, having dozens of people walk through the home in multiple open houses. That's usually what they base that off of, which is not when you're factoring in the convenience of just getting this done, knowing you get a check by the time you've moved, so you don't have to drive back up and take vacation time or have a waste a weekend driving through the night. That's a different price factor to get that convenience. So Zillow isn't really what we base stuff off of.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So assuming like we cover the mortgage, since you're going to have a year of housing covered by this new job, how much are you looking to walk away with? Sort of after the mortgage is paid.
As much as I can get.
Okay, that would be
To be honest with you, so like I told you, we bought this place back before they put the new shopping center in, and the prices went through the roof. So we're sitting pretty on it either way. I mean, we bought it. Now Zillow says it's worth $375,000. I don't know, and I don't know what their place looked like. I know the neighbor down the street, their place sold quick, but that was when the interest rates were real low, and their place sold for this is probably a year and a half ago, but I think it was like 335,000, something like that.
Sure.
We bought it for 126. So
Gotcha.
and we were making double payments on it for a long time, and then we had taken out a home equity to pay for the windows and the kitchen stuff and everything.
Okay.
When we did some of the work to it, we took out a home equity, but we paid that off. It was like a credit card against the house.
Okay.
So I want to say maybe we owe, I don't know, probably 35,000, 40,000.
Okay, great. So assuming that 35,000 is covered, so obviously that's got to go to the bank. How much would you be looking to walk away with? Like, what would you actually want to hit your account?
Well, I mean, what are you guys going to do with it? What are you just going to resell it?
We're not sure yet. I mean, that's kind of outside of my pay grade. My job is just basically to have a conversation with you and figure out if it makes sense, and then we've got a whole team that figures out the numbers. But my job is to even figure out if this makes sense. But it sounds like you don't have a number in mind.
Well, I mean, it's just you're putting me on the spot. I mean, I want to make as much as I can.
Of course. But realistically, knowing you're getting that convenience, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope that we'd at least be, putting at least. I mean, I'd like to say 300,000, but I think 250 or 275 is fair.
Okay. That's
assuming that, and I'm not going with the Zillow. I understand you're saying that's not accurate. You'd have to do your research on that when I get that. I'm just saying that let's say it's a $350,000 house. That's we pay off the mortgage, and I'd like to maybe make 250,000.
Okay. So that would be what? That would be 285 you're looking to walk away with, or looking to have paid for it, because you would want to walk away with $250,000.
Yeah, yeah, if you put it like that, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Do you have plans for that much money, especially since you don't have any rent expenses, at least for a year at the new place?
Yeah, well, this place is pretty far inland in South Carolina. And I'd like to try and we've thought about maybe using half of it for a smaller house, because 2 of the kids are grown now. So we're downsizing anyways. So we thought about using half the money to put for a smaller house and half the money to get like a maybe something small, like a mobile home or an apartment out by the beach. So that way we, as we get older, we could start to go out there for vacation.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. So eventually you're going to look to maybe buy a beach house, something like that.
Something small, something real small.
Okay. So it wouldn't be like, you're not buying some big mega mansion. You would just probably try and put a down payment on something small.
Just a place for me and the wife. So
Okay.
somewhere I can go fishing.
So when I looked online, because I did do a little bit of research before I came out here, I saw that cash investors were paying, again, for that convenience of just like picking up a check in 30 days. They were paying for homes nearby between like, 150 to 200, maybe 220. Now, I'm not saying that's what our offer would be exactly, but if someone were to offer you something in that range, knowing you don't have to come back up, what would you say?
I'd probably say no, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I thought so. Because like especially you've done work to the home, you're in no sort of rush. If you have to drive up on the weekend, there's no harm, no foul to take that big of a loss.
Yeah, I mean,
So
and some, you'd have to know what you were going to do with it because somebody could move right in here. This place is perfect.
sure, but we always fix something up. We always do something. We always put costs into it. It's just a factor that we have to figure out. Yeah.
Okay.
So we always got to update something, whether we have someone move in right away, or we resell it, or we work with other investors. There's always things that we've got a bunch of different options that we figure out.
Okay.
So knowing that, I mean, the 275 years, you're still sort of operating off the Zillow thing. And I'll be honest, most people haven't told me that they were expecting to have a check for $250,000 at their bank account. That's great. If there was any leeway there, because I'm not sure yet, is it even worth me figuring out what if there is leeway there, or are you sort of so set on making sure you have $250,000 hit your account after the mortgage that it's not even worth having the conversation?
I mean, again, you'd have to look in to see exactly what you think it's worth. But, in my opinion, if I'm selling it to you for 285,000, it's already me saying I'm selling it to you for $75,000 less than you could turn around and sell it for to somebody else. So, that $75,000 discount's a pretty big discount.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I
we
thought
have to
was a
factor in.
convenience discount.
Yeah. So that's my fault for not making that clearer, since we have to factor in just general repairs, time holding it, supply chain issues for doing any renovations at all. If maybe we open up the floor plan, I don't know. It's always a thing we have to factor in. Considering all that, my question is, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. We'd love to be able to buy your home, but I'm hearing that you would rather get much closer to market value. Or am I missing something?
Well, I think I'd probably have to talk to somebody else and, at least want to get somebody else's opinion.
Okay, that's totally fine. I'm not even sure what we can offer yet. That's my main thing. But my thing is to figure out if it even makes sense for us to run numbers in a way to be confident exactly what we can give you.
Oh, well, yeah, as long as it comes in above the 225,000, it makes sense for you too. But if you think that's where your number is going to be, I don't think it would make sense.
Okay, and so then realistically, how far above would it be above that? If it's like I'm not 285 is kind of a push, but assuming there's income of a little bit from there, like realistically, what would you feel like? All right, the convenience of making sure that this is just done and we're picking up a check. What would that be for you?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Okay.
Plus, I mean, obviously my wife is, she's weighed in on what she thinks we should do,
And that's my fault for not asking that question. What does she think we should do?
she wants to list it with this gal she used to work with. It's like a realtor, but the woman said how we'd have to get like, a home inspection and, we need to leave the house on a Saturday because they want to do an open house. And it's like, we already are trying to pack shit up as it is. So now we're supposed to pack stuff and leave the house at the same time. Just, I don't know. I just, like I said, I saw the ad and just figured maybe you guys would be able to just buy it quick if I gave it, took some money off or something.
We'd love to be able to buy it quick. Yeah. So, but assuming that we can pay a price, because obviously now you're hearing that your wife wants to move forward with the realtor, which it sounds like you're pretty aware that would be highly inconvenient. You mentioned the Saturday open houses and all that stuff, knowing what that would be like. Assuming we can just skip that process for you, and we pay a price, it's above 225. Maybe it's not 285, but it's like, it's above, it's enough that you're comfortable with. What would you want to have happen next, Jesse?
What do you, I don't know what you said you'd put it in writing.
Typically, the people we work with now, they want to make sure they have this in writing, that they can have this in the contract, and we get that process started. So you can make sure by the time you're down in South Carolina, in that housing, over 12 months when it's covered at their new job, that you've picked up your check already. You didn't have to scramble to do it as the moving truck is there. We give you enough leeway since it's got to be out of there in April. Like, we would want to get that process started as soon as possible. That's typically what people tell us.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'd think about it. I'd have to wait and see what they came back at with the numbers.
Okay. So one of the things I would love to do is call back to the office to see exactly what they could offer. But the one thing I would do is, because by the time I say that, they're putting the money aside by the time they figure out what they can offer. Like, that's kind of how we operate. I wish our process was a little bit different. That's kind of how it works. So my question is, if for me to ask them to come up and make sure that the number works for you, I would definitely want to make sure we're on the same page. So
Yeah.
at what point price wise, because I know you mentioned 285, I'd love to be able to be up around there. At what point price wise, if there's any give on that at all, where we could potentially have a deal, what would your thoughts be there?
I don't know. I mean, that's why I was calling you, because I figured you'd know.
Well, sure. Well, it's your house. So, I'm talking about what you would feel comfortable accepting. Because our whole thing is that we're not going around just trying to make offers, just trying to figure out what we can do. We want to make sure it works for the homeowner. So before I call them and actually have them put the money aside so that we can sign a contract and actually have it be set up, I'd have to figure out what works for you. And I'm sorry I didn't explain that a little bit clearer.
Yes, yeah, I didn't understand. I know you said that you didn't buy every house, but I didn't realize that you didn't even make offers on every house.
No, we don't. Yeah,
Oh.
that's not how our process works.
Yeah, I thought you could just like tell me, like I give you the address and you'd be like, this is how much we can pay you for it. But
yeah, unfortunately,
I mean,
we're not really in the offer making business. We're in the house buying business. We'd love to buy a house today if we could.
sure.
Let's get that process started so you can get paid and not have to worry about it. But I just want to make sure when I go to them,
I send you pictures of it?
We'll definitely need pictures. We have a whole process there. We have a whole process to get pictures and go through all that. We'd figure that all out.
What's the problem? Like, so what do we do next? So what would you need me to do? What do you need from me?
What I need from you right now,
for them to give me the offer.
Simply put, based on what you told me, is what I would tell them, and we would operate off of that. So what I need to know is sort of like your bottom line number. Like, this makes sense. Theoretically, I could move forward with this, and I'll get confirmation, because the last thing I want to do is make you go around, take photos, get every angle if the number doesn't even work. There's no point in us wasting any time.
Oh, okay.
So how much below 285 would you be like, all right, I still understand, I'm getting the convenience, I'm picking up a check, I'm done there. I'm walking away with 200 something. But realistically, what would that look like? Especially if we cover closing costs.
I thought, like, I start high, you start low, and like, we work our way to trying to meet in the middle. So you
okay. So you're at
didn't you say
285.
Didn't you say 245 a minute ago?
Not that I recall.
Oh, I thought you said 245.
But if I had said 245, what would you say to that?
Let's meet in the middle at 265.
Okay. And if I can meet in the middle, if we can do 265, if I tell them that and it makes sense, what would you want to have happen? Start the process of putting it in writing so we can actually get this done?
Yeah, as long as I could have it done by the weekend that I'm moving. As long as it would be done. Like, to where
so just to recap.
Like, here's the keys, see you later, house. Never coming back here. I'm going. As long
let me make sure we're on the same page. If we can make sure that you're simply picking up a check before you even leave, you're set up here that you're done, you move on, it's for cash at $265,000, and you get to move to your setup and have that excess money, everything after that mortgage, that's just straight money to your bank account that you'll be able to buy that beach house and then some once you're down to the new job. We're factoring in aspects of, basic things like the painted kids' rooms and carpet, basic stuff like that. Factoring all that in, you just pick up a check and it's done. Do you feel like that would be helpful if we can pay 265 for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have kind of an uncomfortable question, Jesse, but I'll just ask it. Do you want my help?
With what?
Getting that money. You said it would be helpful. Do you want my help?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, if you want to, do you want to buy it?
I think I can confirm. If I can confirm at 265, can I put you on hold for 30 seconds?
Sure, go ahead.
So I put you on hold and then I would be like, open up your email and we'd go from there, assuming that number worked, right? So
Yeah.
that's basically how I would buy your house.
Yeah. And guys, listen, I intentionally went along
Can I just
with
say,
it.
I'm excited to hear your recap. I know it's a weird thing to interrupt you, but I loved how much you broke down what I was doing before. So I'm excited to hear your recap. That's a weird little thing.
No,
Yeah, go ahead.
no worries. So here's what I was going to say, guys. This is the things that I took away from the conversation that I'm hoping you guys can take also. Throughout us talking, I understand we didn't go into the details of the house, word by word, picture by picture, all that type of stuff. But what was most important was the entire time he kept the control of the conversation, staying focused, laser focused, really. I would start to talk about the job and he would tie it right away with how's that of a benefit? You know what I mean? How is you not having to come back and up, or, back and forth? Is that going to be of a benefit of you or to you? What difference would it make in your life? What are you going to do with the money? So at no point in the conversation, guys, was he trying to sit there and beat me down on the property. He wasn't sitting there trying to say, oh, well, do you know how much carpet's going to cost to replace? I heard a guy on a call the other day said, this is literally what he said to a seller. Do you even have any idea how much it costs to hang a sheet of drywall? And I was like, and you kind of wonder why the guy got off the phone with you almost immediately. Like you're attacking him. So instead of that, he just kept control of the conversation with, oh, yeah. Every property needs some renovation. We're going to do some work to it. He didn't have to explain it because he just instead focused to keep me worried about one of two things, the logic or the emotional side of the sale. That's all a sale is. It's either logic or emotion. So he kept me bouncing back and forth between the two. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't even bring up the wife. What did she say? And then as soon as I said, oh, she wants to sell with a realtor or some lady she used to know, he didn't sit there and try and kick the crap out of a realtor and make it sound bad. Instead, he tied it right back into the, but you'd be losing. He brought my pain point right back to the surface. Oh, but you'd be losing the ability to just go down there and be done with it. You'd be losing the convenience of it. You don't want to deal with the showings. You don't want to deal with people coming in and out. So by him doing that, every time I started to try and pull back, maybe give a reason or an explanation or even a suggestion that he wouldn't be my best option, he didn't sit there and try and argue the point. Instead, he agreed with it. He was polite. He was compassionate, but then he just refuted it with a more logical and sound answer that I had already given him previously. He knew that I didn't want to be driving back and forth. So what did he do? He tied that back in continuously. And by bringing up those pain points, it naturally leads you right into a close, in my opinion. It leads you into having that comfortable transition to where you never had to come out and say, look, can we break down the money finally? Instead, it was just a question. Where would you need to be at? And I was even trying to push back a little bit. I want to start high, you start low, because that's what people think that we do. People naturally always think that it's going to be like some type of auction house as soon as they get us on the phone where it's like 225, 235, 285. And there's probably some people out there that do that. But instead, he kept control of it. And he made me come up with the answer. He made me come out and say, what was the least amount I would consider? And then after I said that, he pulled back again. Oh gosh, if that was the number, would it even make sense for us to stay on the phone? he made me again recommit to the conversation. And by doing that, guys, that's when you're actually selling. They always say selling is like a transfer of an emotion, right? He was transferring his emotion of the speed and the convenience and how easy he's going to make it to me. And at the same time, he was taking that burden of, I don't want to have to deal with coming back and forth. And all we were doing was transferring an emotion. And from that, he was able to solve my problem, and I'm able to sell him my imaginary house. So
that was great. So one thing I definitely want to reiterate, because you brought up that point about how I didn't talk about how bad realtors are. You don't want to do this. There's a principle that I apply at all times, which is if it comes out of my mouth, it's salespeople. So they can just go, nah, whatever. I don't believe you. You're just saying that. If it comes out of the prospect's mouth, the homeowner's mouth, it's gospel. That's reality. So when I ask questions like, but it sounds like you probably didn't even want to move forward there because you would have to come back. And he's like, yeah, I know. I wanted to just see if we could get it done. That's why I clicked on the ad. I don't have to deal with that objection anymore. That realtor is no longer an option. If I told them, he can be thinking, yeah, but I don't believe you. And I never want to trigger that. I would much rather ask them, I guess, it sounds like this has been a point between you two. Why didn't you want to go with her? Like, I probably should have asked that more. I mean, I already knew why, so I just tied it down because also I have to go in a couple minutes. So there's also that. But I also I probably would have taken a little bit longer in some of the pain, in what he was going to spend the money on, in the challenges with the realtor, in what next steps would be, in if his wife. Another thing I would do is after we sign the contract, I'll talk about hey, now that we've done this, who else is going to have questions about this? Because your wife wanted to go with her friend, so the realtor, and this is a total different thing. What will she say when she sees this? Gotcha. Oh, and he was like, well, if she doesn't like it, I'd have to cancel it. My whole thing I like to say is I'd rather rip up the contract right now if that's the case, because what's going to happen is we're going to put money aside. We're going to spend money. We're going to run title. We're going to do all that. If a disagreement would between the two of you would break the contract, I don't want to start spending money and make that process happen. Should I rip up the contract? And I want him to go, no, don't rip it up, please. Because then he verbalizes it. Again, it's not 100% foolproof, but they're far more likely to fight for you, for the deal, to turn other investors away, trying to offer $1,000 more. I always want to deal with whatever could break up the deal. The second after the contract is signed, I offer to get rid of the contract, because for someone to take that action, especially if it's physical, but even just clicking a DocuSign, knowing I'm signing a legal contract for selling my home, there's a relief, I'm doing it. And then if I take it away immediately, they're far more like, no, don't do that. Okay, I'm committed. I understand how this works. And by them verbalizing that, they're far more likely to see it through to the end.
Yeah, and that so the way I was trained, it sounds like we always call that bringing them out of the clouds, which was kind of it's quick and easy sometimes to get that signature, but then I want to talk them down from that emotional high point to kind of, like you said, pull it back from them. Look, if you had any thoughts of canceling, I'd rather rip this up and walk away friends now than have to come back to readdress this issue. And I always felt as though that was a huge part in being able to make sure you don't have cancellations and contract issues, a week or two out from the time that you're on the phone with them.
Especially when you're new, once you actually get a signed contract, you're going to want to get off the phone as fast as possible. Oh my God, I got to end this now. It's resist that temptation. You want to make sure that there's as much clarity, because even though theoretically you have a signed legal contract, I mean, depends the contract, depends the state. There's all types of situations. So I don't want to make a broad prescription. Even though you might theoretically have something on your side, it's so much better if they are on the side too about the challenges that could come that could make them consider canceling. And so the emotions are highest right after they've made that commitment. That's when I want to spend a little extra time to offer to rip up the contract, to say, oh, if someone pays you $1,000. So usually what we do is not talk about the wife. It's be if some other investor called you tomorrow and offered to pay $5,000 more, what would you do? And if they've got two options usually, which is no, I'm committed to you. And then great, I got that. And I'll say, good, because if you had said you would, I would offer to rip the contract now. I still do that because it's such an emotional endpoint. But if they're well, I'd consider it, well, then we got to rip the contract right now because we're going to spend money. Either way, it's I still get to say that line because they're oh man, no, don't rip it up. I just committed and signed this thing. Don't take away that we just had talked for an hour. you're gonna rip up the contract. It's like they're more likely to fight for it, and if they fight for it, they verbalize that. I have such a better chance of getting it across the line.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, I will leave you guys with a funny story with what he just said. I hope everybody can thank Ian for all the information that he gave us tonight. It was all fantastic. I'm glad this is recorded. I hope you guys can go back and watch it. Again, if you haven't already done it and you're still on here, jump online, get signed up to the REIpreneurs School. Those of you guys that join in for the weekly calls with me, I will look forward to seeing you guys soon. And for you guys that don't know, again, Ian, his Instagram, his IG handle is Vivid Selling. And then also on whoop.com, I believe it is where you can find the sales disruptor.
WAP, technically.
WAP. Okay.
Yeah, that's this is just because there's only one
Hey,
O.
Esteban, I did not say that, sir. I did not. No, but yeah, so go on to WHOP.com and you can find the Sales Disruptors course right on there. Guys, tons of valuable content in both places. And the last thing I'll leave with is with what he was just saying about, if another investor called you tomorrow, offered $5,000 more. I was brand new in wholesaling. I had done a few deals. I started off kind of on fire, and I got a deal on a place called Clubhouse Road. Got this place way crazy undervalue. It was a $250,000 house. I ended up getting it under contract for $67,000, right? And another wholesaler went out the next day and offered the guy $95,000. And I didn't know any better. I didn't know what to do or anything. So the guy calls me back and he says, hey, I had another guy come out here and offer me $95,000. And I was like, okay. And he's like, so I signed the contract with him. He's like, I want to rip up the one with you. And I said, listen, I understand I'm brand new at this, but I've been in business for a long time. I will sue the shit out of you if you try and sell that property to somebody else. True story. The guy goes, oh, really? All right, I'll just call him back and cancel it with him then. True, sure as hell. Bought the place for $67,000. Do not do that, though. You can't tell people you will sue the shit out of them. And my business partner flipped out and was like, dude, we're going to get shut down. You're going to get us put out of business. But it worked out in the long run. So, yeah, I was
That's
like
really
a much younger person. I was like, if you sell that to him, I'm going to sue the shit out of you. He's like, oh, you would? I was like, yeah, I will. Yeah, it was a lesson learned. So listen, guys, thank you so much for joining in and tuning in. Ian, thank you for all the amazing value and content as always, man.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jesse.
It has been a pleasure to have you on here. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you all. See you next week.
See ya.